Hello guys and welcome to our video number 1 of the week number 7. This is the first video lesson. Hope everything's going well on your side, everything's good. We have advanced quite a deal using this modality that I know is not the ideal one, but well, we're doing our best hopefully, right? Well, I would like to remind you guys that this is the week number 7, meaning that this is the final week before the exam. Okay, we're going to have a midterm exam next week, the week number 8. So I strongly recommend that you ask any questions that you have, revise your notes. More specifically, read your book if you haven't. Like if you still haven't somehow finished, please do, because you're going to require to have read all book for the exam, right? It's important for you to know that. We're having a synchronic meeting in order to cover some of the details of the exam, about times. We're going to discuss about maybe modalities, deadlines, etc. Right? So it's very important that you attend this meeting. I think it's going to be on Monday, right? So I will let you know with the monitors, so they can inform you about it, hopefully with enough anticipation. But please be prepared to attend this meeting and have any questions for it. Okay. Well, guys, as usual, I would like to share a poem with you guys today. This time, this is a poem by Latin American poet Homero Aritis, and the name is Tercer Poema de Ausencia. Tú has escondido la luz en alguna parte y me niegas el retorno. Sé que esta oscuridad no es cierta, porque antes de mí mis manos volaban las luciérnagas, y yo te buscaba, y tú eras tú, y éramos unos ojos en un mismo lecho, y nadie de nosotros pensaba en el eclipse. Pero nos hicimos fríos y conocidos, y la noche se hizo inaccesible para bajarla juntos. Tú has escondido la luz en otros ojos, porque desde que ya no existes, nada de lo que está junto a mí amanece. I really like it. It's a short one, but it's really emotional and really full of meaning, right? It has to do with this possible couple that was extremely happy, apparently, and they had a really good thing going. But then inertia came, and routine and repetition, and maybe some other facts that we're not really aware of in the poem. And well, they are not seeing each other anymore. Like this girl is probably dating somebody else, and well, this light that she projected is not available for him anymore. I think it's good. I mean, it's a good way to synthesize emotions, and that's really nice in my opinion. Well, guys, basically we're going to finish this week with the two remaining figures of speech that we're missing. Remember that we already covered alliteration and oxymoron. So today we're going to deal with the other two. So if you can be so kind and go to the slide number 72, you will see that the first one that we have over there is called Understatement. Okay, there's a picture over there in that slide, and there is a quote, right? It says, "It's just a flesh wound," right? Now I don't know if you are familiar with that concept. A flesh wound is just basically something small, maybe a scratch, a little cut, when, for example, when somebody fires a gun, and the bullet doesn't penetrate, but it only crosses over, right? So that could be a flesh wound. No, so something minimal. That is the definition of flesh wound. But let's take a look of what it says next, right? It says the Black Knight, after having both arms and a leg cut off in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, right? This is a movie, a comedic movie, and well, this guy that you see over there, that it's like jumping on a leg because he has no arms anymore and he has one leg, and the guy is still like wanting to fight, to have this combat with the other guy. So that is a little bit an example of an understatement. Yes, let's take a look at the definition, and then you will sort of decide if it's understandable for you or not. No. It says a figure of speech in which a writer or speaker deliberately makes a situation seem less important or serious than it is. Okay? Now, this understatement is trying to minimize the situation, right? But deliberately, it means, as all figures of speech, this has a purpose, this has an intention, no? So, for example, the guy in the previous slide, you will see that he wants to appear brave, that he wants to appear somehow still available for fighting, willing to fight, and he doesn't want to surrender, no? And it doesn't matter that he's only jumping on one leg, which is, of course, an exaggeration, a fantastic thing. But he's minimizing his wound. He's saying, no, this is just a flesh wound. So that's it. No, that's a little bit what we find over here, like trying to minimize a situation. But paradoxically, by minimizing it, you make it seem like more important or more evident, right? This says that this is like a little contrast with a hyperbole that is merely an exaggeration. Yes, we take something that is not so relevant, that is sort of trivial, and we make it more important and we exaggerate it. Well, in the understatement, we do the opposite. We take something that is very likely really important or really great or really bad or really good. It is superlative, right? And we sort of minimize it. But let's say our listener or our reader is going to notice that. Yes, he's not going to be deceived by our minimization, right? Very well. Now, so let's take a look at some of these hyperbole. Some of these understatements in context. So we have some examples over here. Let's take a look at the first one. It says, I am just going outside and maybe some time. Yes, like I am going outside and I may take a while. Probably I won't return in some time. Now, what is the understatement content? Take a look at the quote. Where is it like extracted from? It says, Captain Lawrence Oates, Antarctic explorer, before walking out into a blizzard to face certain death, 1912. Okay, so this is like the quote or the sentence, the phrase that this person pronounced, like opening the door, imagine all this blizzard coming in, the snow, the deafening breeze entering the room. Yes, and everybody was really sad and really depressed that this guy was having to go and die. Yes, because he was not going to return from that. And he says, I'm going outside and I may take a while into return, right? So that's it. He's sort of minimizing the fact that he is going to die and that he will take a while to return. Well, he actually is not going to return. And this is an understatement, okay? Then we have the other one. It says, last week I saw a woman flayed, and you will hardly believe how much it altered her person for the worse. This has a funny syntax, so let's explain. First of all, let's make sure that we understand what does it mean flayed. Last week I saw a woman flayed. Well, being flayed was a form of torture in the old ages, especially in the Middle Ages, that consisted in retiring your skin with a sharp instrument, a knife or something similar, right? So it's what we understand in Spanish as despellejar, right? So it says, last week I saw a woman that was flayed. So imagine this horrible vision of this person who has no skin her muscle is exposed, and probably she's really bloody, and most likely she's dead, right? And then there's like a compliment over there. Yes, it says, and you will hardly believe, like you cannot imagine, like probably you won't believe me, probably you cannot picture yourself this, but uh, you couldn't believe how much it altered her person for the worse. Yes. So basically, he's saying like this didn't make her look so good. Yes, it is like having, I mean, the equivalent of having an ugly hat, or maybe a bad haircut, or I don't know, a mole, which is something that may affect the appearance of the person. But well, if you compare that to somebody being flayed, murdered, and tortured, well, it's not corresponding at all, no? So you see, it's minimizing the fact that this woman was horribly tortured, and that looked hideous because of being a victim of such a terrible crime, by saying that she didn't look so good, you know, she looked a little bit unattractive. So this is by Jonathan Swift, the writer of Gulliver. And well, the final one, in which we have over here, the grape's a fine and private place, but none, I think, do their embrace. Okay, see, there's a rhyming over there. So it says the grape's a fine and private place, right? So you know it's a grape, the spot that you have in the cemetery, in a graveyard, which is somehow fine. I mean, it's okay. It's normally a quiet place, and that's it. And then it's private, no? Because there's not usually a lot of people in graveyards, and especially at certain times, it is completely lonely, no? But then we have the second part. It says, but none, so nobody, no people, go there to embrace. Yes? Now, this word embrace have a lot of different meanings. Let's say that the most literal one could be just hug somebody. Yes? So if I can provide an additional meaning, especially at certain times, such as Middle English or Renaissance times, embrace was used for kissing another person, but as it was something like too physical to describe, so they just used the euphemism of embraced, just not to say that. Or finally, it could refer to sexual intercourse, to the actual copulation process. So it may be all of this. So if I can summarize this a little bit, let's say that graveyards or a tomb is a nice and quiet place. Normally, where do you kiss, embrace, or have sex? Hopefully, or usually, in a nice and private place, so you are not somehow interrupted, or let's say uncomfortable for the presence of onlookers or something like that. So even though a graveyard is like that, has like the, let's make a rude comparison, has the same characteristics of a motel or your room or something like that. Well, people don't use very much these places to kiss or hug or have sex, right? Which is a minimization, no? Like, let's say that I'm sure somebody at some point had sex, or had some kissing or making out, or just hugging in a restaurant, I mean, with romantic purposes, let's say. But it's not at all a common practice, right? And shouldn't be, I guess, under legal. I mean, the law requires me to say that. So, well, this is again an understatement. Yes, let's say it's minimizing something that normally is seen as completely unnatural and criminal sometimes, and disrespectful for the person who died over there. Well, who is buried in the spot, etc. No, and their, let's say, the eyes of regular society, this would be something completely unacceptable. But this guy is sort of just minimizing the thing. So those are three examples, right? where would be like the purpose, or what would be like the intention in here, right? So let's go to the slide number 74, and we will see a couple of things, right? So first of all, we have to understand that understatement is a form of irony, right? Normally you use it in order to communicate an idea and an expression, some sort of, let's say, intention, using irony, right? So let's say that we have the quiz or the test next week, and then the next week you tell my teacher, how did we go? Like, was it fine? And I say, well, it's not too bad. Only 20 people fail, right? So you see, that is an understatement. Like, the whole course, this is composed like by 21 people or 22, and then I say that only, I am minimizing the number, only 20 people failed, right? So by means of the irony, by means of, let's say, the understatement in this case, I am trying to say, well, that was terrible, like everybody failed, and I'm not happy, right? So that's one thing, right? Then it is a form of humor, of course, because this understanding can be sort of offensive somehow sometimes, or it could be strong-willed, like a form of admonition, a form of telling off somebody, yes. But also it can be just a form of humor, right? A form of making fun of something or somebody or a circumstance, or something like that, right? And it's a form of remarking an idea or term by trying to minimize it. Remember that we're always like using this in a double operation. We minimize the important thing, but by minimizing it, we make it more visible. We make it more somehow evident, the fact that it is important, or the fact that it is special or relevant, or something like that, right? Now, there is also understatements that we can do out of the opposite intention. We can either insult, or we can be sort of more polite. Yeah, so let's take a look at some of the rewarding things that we have in here. It says that we can use it to try to persuade someone by rewording a sentence in less offensive terms. Okay, so let's imagine that somebody gives me a proposal for a thesis, and I said, no one will take such an idiotic theory seriously. Well, that's really harsh and offensive and insulting, right? And not educational at all. But then what if I reward that, and if I say it in some other terms? So I take that idea, instead of saying that it's really idiotic, what you can say is something like, your analysis is far too simplistic. A little bit harsh, right? But the wording is much better now. Like, it doesn't use the word idiotic, for example, right? So it says your analysis is far too simplistic. You haven't somehow taken into account different things, and it's like that. But let's reward it a little bit more, no? It says, I think there may be some additional factors that you may not have accounted for. So bottom line is the same. You didn't pay attention to something that you should have, and that's why nobody's going to pay attention to it, right? But the rewarding of the understatement is much more digestible, right? It's not offensive, at least not in the apparent way, and it's going to to provide let's say less harsh implication for the communication between one person and another. If you see, for example, between the first and the second, the difference is just that the third one is more polite. I think that there may be some additional factors that you may not, and there's not even an asseveration. No, it's not saying that is. It's just may possibly have not accounted for. You have not taken into account. So this is a little bit like the connotation of the understatement. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. Hopefully we will find this information somehow clear enough to understand. I think it's, I mean, if we think it as the reverse of exaggerating, that is oversimplifying, but then with the intention of making it more visible, will be good enough. Again, you can probably like look for some other examples online, or even think about your books and see if you can find something like that in there, and it will be on the other side. Okay. Very well, so that was it for the first video. In the second video, we are going to explain and discuss something that is short but quite important. That is the other figure of speech that is called the chiasmus. Okay, so thank you very much, and see you in the next video. Bye bye, hugs.